In the previous lesson, we saw how we can apply different effects using the color menu and using all these commands and features that we have in GIMP. So how we can change the colors basically of the pixels that are contained in the image. So we can work with simple colors, or we can work with combination of colors, and we can work with simply with black and white colors, or just apply more than one effect and then mix them together. So we have a lot of different results that we can obtain with a source image, a starting image like this one here, or any other image that you have in your computer. Now, we also saw that we can use some tools that we have here. So, for example, the brightness and contrast, and we can work with curves and levels and so on. So all of these can be used to do basically either to adjust the image, to do color correction, to adjust some problems, fix some issues, or it can be used to alterate the image, to create some alteration, do something really different, really like, you know, psychedelic, or totally different from the starting point. Now, the same thing goes for the filters, which we're going to see in this lesson right here. So we are actually going to change the image, but we can do it either by fixing some problems caused by the lens or by the effects that are already in the image, or we can just alterate and create something totally different, artistic, and, you know, completely um, out of the normality. So before we move on, I want to show you something here on this image, or I can take another image, doesn't matter. And that is that we can apply these color changes or other effects or filters using not the overall image, but just one part of the image. So for example, if I want to just work with one single umbrella right here, I can use the let's use, for example, the free select tool, which is like the Photoshop polygonal lasso here in GIMP. So depending on what we need to do with the selection, because I want to select only this umbrella, I can be more or less precise. Now I want to be quick, so I don't want to be too precise. And also I have a black around this umbrella, which will help me to hide the effect. So what I want to do now is invert these selections. So right click and select invert. And also want to smooth this a little bit by doing feather. And if I want to know how much feather, I just need to look at the pixels in there. So you can see there are a few pixels, so I'm gonna type like 3. So this is gonna add a nice feather, and it's not gonna be like an instant change, but it's gonna be a gradient or gradual change. So I'm going to work only on the rest of image now because I've inverted. So I want to only leave that to red. So let's go to colors and use, for example, we can use saturation right here, but sometimes you have other effects here. We can use, for example, let me see here, the saturate color to gray. So you can see that everything turns gray or black and white, and now I can change the effect as I know already. I can work. Now, when you have iteration, if you increase the iteration, it's going to take more time. It's going to be a better quality, but it's going to take more time. And by the way, try to start with not too high resolution images because they're going to take more time to render out the effect, and you don't want to waste too much time on that. So, um, you know, start perhaps with a smaller image, and then when you like the effect, open the high quality image and apply the same exact effect. You can also save the preset here, the parameters as a preset, so you can reuse it. So you can see what I've done here. Essentially, I've just applied the change only to that selection. So that's another option that you have when working with colors, but also it's the same thing with filters. Let me just get another image here. So I'm just going to open one of the previous images that I've used here. For example, let me see here. Okay, this image right here. Okay. And I want to show you another thing about the colors here, the color menu. Now you can see that a lot of these effects have the G beside them. Now the G stands for, if we go here to tools, it stands for the GEGL operation, which is kind of a preset library of effects that we can apply. Now we can apply them by using this. So if I click here, I can open it. I have a list of operation that I can do, or I can access them in here. For example, let's do again like the, let me see here, the alien map. There you go. So it's going to change radically everything. It's going to alterate the image and create something totally different. So this is one way I can use it. I can go from here. And so we're moving on here on the menus. In the tools, we already saw the selection tools, the transform tools, and also here in this video, we're going to see some of the paint tools that we have, especially those on the bottom, which are the blur and sharpen, smudge, and dodge and blur, which can be used again to fix or adjust or to color correction, retouch, or do the opposite, which is alterate and do extreme things. And you can see that we almost done everything here except for the vector part, which are paths and text, which we're going to do for last. And you see here we find the GEGL operation again, and let's just apply some of these. Let's apply like a box blur. So box blur is just a blur that is going to blur out the image. And you can see it's taking some time because uh, again, it's pretty heavy image. So my suggestion again is to scale down the image. Let's try to do image, scale image, and you can see this is 5K. So let's do this really low HD, so 1280, and doesn't matter the height, and let's scale. So when I scale, I definitely have less pixels, so I can zoom here, I have less pixels, but it's gonna be quicker to apply the most advanced effects in the colors, but also in the filters or in the GEGL. So let's try again box blur. And you can see now it's immediate. It's really fast. And I can change the radius here of the blur. And you can see it's applying the blur to the overall image. Again, if I want to do this only on one part of the image, I can select only the part that I want. And again, I'm going to be quick with the polygonal lasso. And that's another situation when you want to zoom, when I want to put something in focus and something out of focus is one of those situations where you can use the quick polygonal lasso instead of spending too much time on selecting the foreground and cutting it out from the background. But one thing I definitely want to do is to add some feather. Otherwise, I would see the change of focus and defocus too much. So I'm going to do this like 15 pixel. So it's going to be a lot. And let's now invert again because I want to work with the background and I want to blur the background. So again, if I go to the tools GEGL box blur, you can see now it's working only for the background. I cannot exaggerate too much because I'm gonna see the lady there appearing. And probably another good practice is to like create another layer out of this. But you can see we blur the background. Now another way we can blur only part of the image, it's also using the blur and sharpen. Now if I start, you can see I have a small brush, so if I want to make it bigger, I can increase the size here, and then I can change the aspect ratio, make it like an ellipse, and I can change the angle, rotation. So every time I think I change too much, I can reset everything. And then we have other things we can set, but I'm going to show you those when we will talk about brushes. Just want to show you here that you have size and force. So if you start now, you can see it's going to start to blur the background in there. So it's going to start to blur wherever I'm going to brush with this. So you can see here I'm, try to create more blur on the background. or I can blur also the foreground if I want. Instead, if I hold Control and click, it's gonna sharpen. Now be careful with the sharpen because it may look good, but if you increase the sharpness too much, it's gonna have this effect, which is kind of generating, fireflies and halos and too bright pixel, too dark pixel. So be careful on using the sharpen. So here you can use blur and sharpen. So click with the left mouse, it's gonna blur, hold the control, it's gonna sharpen. Now, once you have blurred, even if you go back to sharpen, it's not gonna get those pixel back. So be careful because these are like non-reversible operation most of the time. Now I want to change the subject right here. So you can see that this is a picture that I've taken that already has the defocus background and in focus foreground. So this is actually an effect that you have in cameras depending on how you adjust the camera settings. So if you want to replicate that, again, you can use the blur tool, or we can also use some other tools that I'm going to show you. So let's go now in the filters. And if you see here, you can repeat the latest filter, which is alien map and came from the colors actually, or you can re-show, so reapply, or use a recently used, or reset all filters. So everything is gonna be as the beginning. Now you can see you have many types of blur. So we see the box blur, but we can use also like the focus blur. So focus blur is gonna create this, and you can then change these areas. So the central area will be the one more in focus, and then you have like the other, and you can place this around, and you can adjust this, and you can change the amount of blur in the rest of the image. There you go. So that's another option right there. And also you have many more blur filters here, but we cannot see everything. Just I'm gonna show you a selection of this, but you can test the other once you understand how they work. So let's say, for example, the circular motion blur. So you can see now we are creating some circular motion around the center here. So you can place the center, you can change the circular speed. So it's kind of a movement motion blur effect that we have in animation and things like that. You can also adjust it from here if you want. So sometimes you have filters that can be adjusted using these gizmos, or you can adjust them just by using the parameters. Now let's move on and let's see another interesting one, but I want to show you the linear motion. Well, actually, first I want to show you the zoom motion, which is again kind of a movement towards the subject, so kind of a fast movement, or you can go backward like this. Pretty interesting. Now let's see that I want to have some motion blur on this guy in the bicycle. So what I'm gonna do is again use the quick polygonal lasso, select this subject really quick just by clicking. There you go, really fast. And so as I was telling you before, usually it's better to create a new layer. So I'm gonna do Control C, Control V to copy and paste and create here a new layer using the new layer button. So now we have, another layer only with the guy on the bicycle. And we're only gonna use that to apply this linear motion blur. So you can see it's creating this effect, which is pretty nice. I can move it in many direction, but this is just simple movement forward, so it's okay like this. And you can see the final result looks pretty beautiful. Now this is the original, and this is the one that we modified. So there are many ways we can use these filters, and we can use it to the overall image or just on one selection. Then we have like correction here for the anti-aliasing effect, which is kind of a zigzag effect that appears on the images caused usually by the pixels. And then we have like noise reduction, where we have pictures that have noise. Well, we actually have also something that will generate noise, because noise is something that we usually see in photos where there is too darkness, or the photo is it's something caused by the lens, by the photo itself. So it's kind of simulating something. So most of these are simulation of what happens in camera. So you can see it's a really, really fine effect. Let's split the view to see. You can see with and without the noise. So this could actually increase the realism for some images, or like make it look more vintage or old. So you have the possibility to increase and use the noise like this. So let's apply it. Or you can try to denoise when you have too much noise and you don't want that. So in that case, you go to enhance and try to improve the quality by using the noise reduction. So let's increase the strength here. Now, when you increase the denoising, or when you use the denoiser, when you get rid of the noise, usually you also get rid of a lot of tiny details in the scene. So be careful on using that. And also can be used like to remove, um, fireflies with spots, white spots, and things like that. But again, it's also going to remove um, parts of the image. Now this is also interesting, red eye removal. So let's get a red eye picture. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to open up another picture that I found on the web here, which has red eyes. And this is the page where I got this image. It's on Wikipedia, so you can see all the information right here. And so let's just apply. So let's go to filter. And in some cases, filters are so smart, so intelligent that you just click and there you go. And then you just need to, adjust them a little bit. Now be careful, because if you increase it too much, you see it's going to like alter the whole image. So this is fine. Now you see we have some skin imperfections here, or defects. Now if you apply the announcement of the denoiser again, the noise reduction, you can see that it's also going to be applicable here. So you can see it's removing a lot of defects, but also a lot of details from the image. So you can decide whether you want to use it or not. And then you have other things like, again, sharpen, but in this case, we're going to sharp everything up, make things sharper, the whole image. And again, some details in this case are gonna, also imperfection are gonna stand out there and be more visible. And well, you can try all these others like the speckle and so on. Now, distort. Now these are all lens distortion. So let's try with something like again, not something that represent or simulate reality, like lens distortion. So you can see that images sometimes can be distorted by the actual lens that we're using of our camera. And that's, an example. So we can try to simulate a camera, or we can try to do something completely, again, out of, you see here, any realism. So this is, psychedelic extreme. And it's in the same distort section here. So the bottom line here, once you understand how they work, just click and play with them with a low quality image and see what they do. Now, another one that I really like is bloom, to create like this dreamy effect, or TV series effect, something that is really again, it's also going to take off some imperfections and things like that. And then another one that could be interesting is to apply flares or lighting effects. Now, sometimes this panel just disappear behind the GIMP software, so just go in your Windows bar and find them. So you can see this is an effect that is going to simulate the presence of an actual light placed on top of your image, and you have like different type of lights. You can change the color, and you have different settings here, material, bump, and all the stuff that you want to like spend a little bit more time on. You can change the distance, and that's it. It's gonna like completely change the aspect of your image and the look and feel. And then another one that I find a lot useful is the vignette, which is also again something used in cameras. It's you know, a kind of a mild shadow on the corner, so it doesn't is not supposed to be too strong. It's supposed to be really mild like this. Otherwise, it's gonna like simulate a spotlight or something. And so you can see how many filters are out there. So let me show you something more. And well, neon and all that stuff is gonna generate things that are completely you know, alterated. So edge detect, it's you know, working basically with the edges, using algorithms to extract those colors, those pixel, and you can change your various settings to get different results. Just want to go back a little bit more, and I want to show you another one here. So the blur can be used also here if you want to blur some part of the image that we don't want to see. And then we have, and also sharpen by holding control. We can make things sharper only in some areas. And then you have the dodge and burn. Now, the dodge is going to create a brighter areas. And probably here you want to decrease the force. You want to use these really, you know, softly. You don't want this to be too strong. So it's like, you know, using makeup. And then control is going to make darker areas. So that's what it's going to do. So instead of using filters or colors that are going to apply to the overall image, we use a tool that we can, you know, manipulate and just focus on some areas. Okay, now I want to change again the subject. I want to do something more romantic, so I look for boy, girl, and I found this image right here. It's from PXear, and you can download it in any size. It's public domain, but I chosen to download this low resolution again for the same reason, because I want to be quick testing my art, and then perhaps I can move to a higher resolution. So I'm gonna get this image from my assets, and well, actually first I want to show you what I've done here by working a lot. So you can see I've created kind of an artistic effect, and I'm show you how you can do that. And here I've tried with other artistic effect, and I got there eventually. So I started from this image and then applied some filters, and then other filters and other filters and other filters. Now for example, if I work here, this is the original. Let's go again to filter. You have artistic, and these are probably the most fun. So okay, you need to make sure you are on the right layers if you work with more layers. So it needs to be selected and visible. And then again, let's try. So let's apply Canva, which is gonna like again use a actual Canva effect to simulate like painting. And then let's try with cartoon. So give it a minute, and you can see it's going to create like some really defined edges. And let's continue here. Just cubism is really extreme. It's going to create, you know, something abstract, almost abstract. And so sometimes you want to do copies, so you can try like them to mix them again with the opacity or with the blending modes. And when you find something that you like, some results, so you can experiment a lot, play a lot. When you find something that you like I think this is really nice, you can do layer, and then you can do the new from visible, and this is going to just create a new version that you can use or reuse. So let's turn this off, and let's, for example, use this other one. And let's go back to artistic. So other, you have Olify, photocopy, you know, a lot of really interesting things. GIMP, Pressinis. So these are like more, a little bit more complex, or Van Gogh. So usually they take more time, and they can be, you know, more difficult to see in terms of preview. And you have all these settings here. This really allow to experiment with, and then you have the result. And so what else? Well, you get the idea. You can just continue here, apply all this stuff that you find, and see what's gonna do to your image. Just a matter of, again, play around, experiment. There is a lot to see. And also another thing you want to have a look at is here in the view menu, display filters. So these are like extra filters, and you can just click on the arrow and apply the filter and see what's gonna happen there. There you go. And then here you can turn off, turn on filters. We can also expand this. We have some other option there on the bottom. So here you can, adjust it. Some of these are for correction again, and some of these are for other purposes. You can use it for other purposes, by the way. So nothing too extreme like the filters that you find in here. Now, one final thing is the Smudge. So Smudge, I think it's a great tool if you want to do something even more artistic, and you want to do this like manually and not by using just the application on a quick filter here. So this is pretty much like preset effects that you can apply. But then we're going to see how we can paint ourselves our own illustration, or how we can create them with vector graphics. But before, let's give a look to the Smudge, which I think is one of my favorite, because I can create like artistic work really in a simple way. So select the Smudge, again, select the size of the brush, and the force also is important. Now hardness also, it defines how hard is going to be the brush, or it's going to be like more blurred on the edges. So it's kind of a feather around the brush circle. So let's start to see what happens here. So if I just click and drag, you can see it's smudging. It's creating like, a water. It's like when you apply water on oil painting and then you push your finger and drag, it's going to create like a movement of pixels. So it's not changing the color or the position, but it's definitely moving pixels around using the source that is the first that you're going to click on. So I want to do this really small. When I do this really small, it's going to create like hairs effect. So I think it's good to create leaking and hair if you use it really, really small like this, so you can see. Or let's increase the force. There you go. And let's increase the size also a little bit. If you increase the size, it's going to be more like expressionist, like Van Gogh painting. So you can, like work with colors. And of course, this is going to take longer than using a filter or a automated effect. But I think the result will be far more artistic and more like authorial. Is going to be from you. Is something that, yeah, it's digital and you're doing this on a computer using an image, but it's essentially your vision of the image. So you can play a lot, be really artistic with this. So you can see it's going to take a lot of time. I'm not going to show you the whole process, but it's one way we can use some more art. And again, if you want to create like hairs or things that look like filament or I don't know, tiny wires or fur, things like that, you can just decrease a little bit the size and work with that. So this is how I created the one that you saw at the beginning, just working a lot, smudging a lot, creating a lot of strokes that arrive there at some point. So it also can be used to create bird or mustache. There you go. Well, that's it. So I think I'm gonna stop here for this lesson. And if you enjoyed, please subscribe to the channel. If you want to thank us, if you want to support us, please join the channel as a supporter and check our other courses and other video guides about also painting and about software that you can paint with, like Krita or Inkscape. And also, if you're interested in 3D, you may want to have a look to the ZBrush or Blender. They can do like similar things, which are really, really artistic. And there you go. You can see where this is going. So again, thanks for watching and see you in the next video.